I'm here today to discuss two topics. One of them is humane killing, and the next one will be unnecessary killings. The objective is again to try to get vegans to be more reasonable in the discussions. And so let's start off with humane killing.
Okay.
Now, some people say humane killing is an oxymoron or something. Do you think there can be such a thing as humane killing?
Well, I think it all comes down to perspective. So I think someone can genuinely believe, like full on, that it's a humane way. So I think it's one of those topics that can't be black or white. You have to understand where the person is coming from, because then the next day their perspective can change and they'll be like, wait a minute, it's not humane. So, for me, there's no humane way if I define it how I want to define it. You know what I mean? So I think it comes down to a perspective way. But if you ask me as a vegan now with my mindset, what I've seen with my awareness, I would say no, there isn't. The way you define humane and the way you define slaughter.
So think about euthanasia, for example.
Okay.
Now, if there's no such thing as humane killing, then you could do euthanasia either by clubbing an animal to death or slowly slicing the animal's throat and letting them bleed. But most of us try to make euthanasia, the act of mercy killing, as painless as possible. Now, do you think in that context you're okay with the word that this is more humane way of killing an animal?
I guess in this society we're really stuck on words, right? So for example, when you put someone to sleep and you kill someone, they're kind of different, you know what I mean? You wouldn't, someone like shot someone, they can be like, oh, I just put him to sleep. It's like, no, you killed them. Versus in the hospital, if someone's super ill or a dog, you have to put them to sleep for other reasons, So one, that's a little bit different from that perspective, So yes, someone is dying. There's different ways of dying, So in my opinion, you can't really compare the both in that sense, that one, for whatever reason, at that moment, that culture, putting the dog to sleep at whatever necessary time, that was it, and we accepted that, and that's what's been done. But it's not coming from a place of kill. You know what I mean? Of just kill,
So I believe humane is basically an attempt to be considerate or kind in your actions.
Yes.
And definitely agree that killing an animal when the purpose is not to help the animal is something that most of us will think is something we shouldn't do. But if you're going to kill an animal, I think there are different ways of going about it. And just as a relative term, if the standard way of killing an animal is rather horrific,
Say that one more time.
if the standard way of killing an animal is really horrific, I think it would make sense for those who want to change the way an animal is killed and refer to it as a more humane way of killing the animal. Would you agree?
Kind of didn't understand the question, that they find different degrees of killing, right? And they're describing that as, yes, it's more humane than this. Can I tell you something that I saw that made me, so I saw Dominion, right? And I always ask people, what do you think is a humane way? And the number one thing that they say is the shot to the head. And I was like, okay. And I remember watching Dominion and I saw it all, gas chambers, everything. But the one that got to me hard was the one with the gun. Because, it's not about just the body. It's the mentality. It's anxiety. It's everything that we put these animals through. So we're thinking from the outsider. Oh, well, he's not shaking, he's not dangling off of here. We're so limited. We're not taking into consideration that, what about if that was you and you had a gun to your head? Would you call that humane in any way possible? No. So, I can't say yes, because genuinely, I can't say that there is. You know what I mean? So your perspective, what you think is more humane. Maybe you think that's more humane, but someone else thinks slicing the throat is more humane, or doing this because they have the logic that I have. You know what I mean? So I think it's, again, perspective. So forget all of that. Let's just go to the core and the killing, and then could you do this? Without anybody around you, you do this. That is your answer right there.
I agree it's a good thing to focus on the other picture, especially given that what they consider humane. I mean, I also saw Dominion, and a lot of times it doesn't even work right away. There's so much fear before they kill. And I agree with, the fact that what's considered humane is hardly what most people would really think of as humane. But in terms of the pursuit of, if you're going to kill an animal, to try to do it with the least amount of pain, do you feel it's so wrong for someone to label that as the humane style of killing?
Yes. Because they did not give that animal the decision, the choice, anything. So you can say whatever you want to say. In reality, we can all say whatever we want to say. But if I have to speak on the behalf of the victim and the person who's committing that, I'm going to be fair and I'm going to say no. Because you know what? That victim did not say for them, okay, this is better than you killing me the other way. So technically, you took the right of someone else.
I think it's fair for you to say that there's a threshold below which you will not use the word humane for something, and that once there is killing for no specific purpose, you just don't want to associate the word humane with it. And I do understand that. But what if they specifically use the term relatively humane compared to the standard? Would you feel comfortable with that?
Honestly, I think, again, it's so word heavy, and I personally try to stay away from that because we get so stuck on words, you know what I mean? So it's kind of really hard. But I guess if I had to respond to a non-vegan that was telling me that, or you're telling me that, if I understood what their heart was, and I understood that they genuinely believe that, I would have to take that in. I would still continue speaking my truth, but I would have to take them in and be like, you know what? I get it why you think it's more humane. You know what I mean? And I'll still tell them my perspective. I'll always speak my truth, and we can at that moment agree to disagree, but I still have to voice my truth of what I know and what I believe now, And if they're saying it, have like this little, like that prop, like have that little hope that my hope is they're suffering a little bit less. Of course, we all think about that. I think about that, and in their head, hopefully they're thinking the same. That's why they're bringing it up, Yeah.
So would you think it would be a fair assessment that when you hear the word humane killing or relatively humane killing, for you the purpose is an integral part of it, but for some people, they don't necessarily associate the purpose with the word humane. They think about more the style. So in the sense, if they were thinking about the purpose, I don't think most meat eaters would call it humane killing either. But I think when they're just thinking about the style, which is usually what they're thinking of, the style of killing, they then use the label more humane or more humane. Yeah. Do you think it would be fair to say that the reason is because for you the purpose is an integral part of whether or not to use the word humane, but for some others maybe they just use it for the style?
For the style. And again, I think that comes down to perspective. A style is a style, it's not one of those things like you can believe that style is more humane, and I believe that your heart is coming, but I can completely also disagree, and I think it's just one of those things that I don't like. I think it's become so unfair that we're measuring the death of the animals. We're saying, oh, this is good enough, this is not, this is this, because we wouldn't be doing that for humans. And I'm at that point in my activism and my self-awareness and awareness in the planet that I live on and the earthlings that I live with, that if I wouldn't say that about a human being, and most of us wouldn't, be like, oh, well, it's okay, you know what I mean? I can't speak that way of the animals.
We do speak that way about the humans too. For example, when we sentence people to death, or even when we're just killing them in wars, dropping bombs, there are many of us who do refer to it as that is so inhumane, like when they use the phosphor bombs that causes the skin to burn. They do refer to it as inhumane even when it comes to humans.
And that's, again, another form of exploitation. I believe exploitation, it's all over the place. It's in humans, it's on animals, it's on the planet. So I would say the same thing about that. It's not humane. I think that is absolutely horrible, and you should not call that humane. So any innocent victims that are involved, and I think at the end of the day we all are, because we all are products of the society, and a lot of us are genuinely thinking we're doing the best thing we can. So I would say the same thing regarding that. It's just it's just a mentality. And until you wake up from that mentality, you see things differently or not.
So what do you think would be a better term for people to use instead of humane to describe it when they're doing an act that does involve a kind of unnecessary killing but they're trying to minimize the suffering? Like, what would you rather they say rather than humane?
I can't give you a word because I'd probably have to make up a whole new word.
Yeah.
But I think, describe it any way you think possible. Honestly, just be ready that if you say humane, you might, people might not understand you know what I mean? So I can't give people a word to use. Especially if it's used to justify, that's the hardest part, because I don't know. It's like, do you know what I mean?
So maybe less horrible.
So less what?
Less horrible.
No, because that's the thing. Like, we're not going for that. Because I wouldn't go that for a human being. It's not less horrible. You know what I mean? I don't agree what's happening in the jail systems and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Now it's just a level of the mentality that's there. So it's still the life of another being. So if I cannot bring myself to say that to a human being, I can't say it to an animal. So there's no less or more. It's killing. We're killing. Whatever way you think is better or worse, you've chosen to take the life of another individual. And if someone took the life of you or someone that you cared about, there would be no question that it was killing and you did something that you wouldn't do to yourself or anybody that you loved, So I think that's what it comes down to.
So what message would you give to the people who are trying to kill humans in a less painful way or to kill animals in a less painful way when they don't really need to be killing, but they choose to kill and they're trying to reduce, not themselves, but they're trying to reduce it, given that someone is going to kill, they're trying to figure out ways to reduce the suffering. Do you think they should be doing that? Or do you think they should instead just focus on abolishing it?
What I would say, I kind of didn't hear the end of the question, but I think what I would say to people who believe, in a more humane way of killing is put yourself in their shoes and be honest. Be honest, would there be, if they didn't have to, if it wasn't necessary, if you weren't killing them, they had to kill you back, if it was just like you were an innocent human being and someone took your life and you were a very happy person and you loved life, would there be a humane for someone to kill you, And I would ask them that, and I would ask them, just reflect on that. You don't have to share with anybody, but what I've learned out of this whole journey of being vegan is being honest with myself, And I was just telling someone, we're all against animal cruelty. I know it. I look in people's eyes every single day that I work with. I know we're on the same page, The question is, we have to just be honest with ourselves. So anybody who's on the journey, kind of thinking about it, and if you're already thinking about a nicer way, think about the kindest way possible, So I would just say reflect and ask yourself an honest question and answer honestly.
Yes, I agree. That's a good point to make to anyone who is actually participating in the killing. What about those people, for example, the vegans who were working on Prop 2 a while ago, who are promoting Prop 12 right now, or all those people who are trying to make killings less painful in countries where they're stoning people to death, etc. What do you think about the fact that they're spending their time trying to figure out less painful ways rather than focusing on abolishing it?
You know what? I genuinely think everyone who worked on that proposition gave their whole heart, and I don't want to take that away from them. I personally don't. It's not something that I worked with for, and I will do what I feel like it's right. I don't have to tell everybody, that we're allowed to have personal opinions on things. But I respect whoever, because I genuinely believe that everyone's coming from a good place. You know what I mean? So, and again, I hope that it does bring less pain to the animals. If this is what it is, and that's what it says it is, which we never really know what everything is because we never see it. We're just always hearing it from everybody. We'll never know until we're there. Sorry. then I know they're coming in from a good place.
Okay.
Sorry, I started thinking about the animals.
No, it's fine. Feel free to cry and stuff.
Feel free to cry.
It's also the setting. It's difficult not to.
Yeah. But so yeah, I would.
Okay.
I'm happy that people are doing something versus just sitting there and doing nothing. At least they're doing something, and it's getting attention. And people are talking about it, and I think in any way anyone can help. Doesn't matter. They're doing their best.
Well, now we get on to a slightly more difficult topic, and that is of unnecessary killings.
Unnecessary killings. Okay. Yeah. Explain that to me.
So we'll be dealing with the unnecessary killings of vegans as well as the unnecessary killings of meat eaters and comparing the reasons given by both people.
Unnecessary killing given by both vegans and non-vegans. What's considered unnecessary? Got it. Okay, let's do this.
So,
why am I getting off the camera? Okay. I'm like,
So, when you say killing animals in factory farms like this one behind us is unnecessary, what exactly do you mean by unnecessary? Because usually I believe when we say, a lot of times arguments are over the fact that someone says it's necessary and another person says it's unnecessary, but they just qualify it's not necessary for, it might take away a lot of those arguments.
Yeah.
So it's unnecessary for what?
I get it. So actually, that is a word that I hate using. I used to use it a lot, and something about it just didn't sound right, didn't feel right, because I was like, what does this even mean? I even asked myself that question, like unnecessary, necessary, but so it's something that I've actually thought about, and I've consciously stopped using that word as much as I can, because I'm not sure about it, to be honest with you. So I think that I got that feeling just because I didn't like telling the non-vegan it's unnecessary. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't think of a time that would be necessary. I don't know why I would have that kind of conversation anyway. You know what I mean? And again, it's just like, just look at it for what it is, We already have enough knowledge that, I'm alive, I'm vegan, so I'm not dying. So, okay, I don't eat any animals. I don't necessarily want to say it's unnecessary because I'm only one human. I don't know where everyone else is at. You know what I mean? So that word is really weird, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I see why you're asking, because I kind of stay away from it. I wouldn't say like it's unnecessary to kill a human. I don't know. It's just really weird thing to say, Again, bringing the animals to the level of humans and really reflecting on how I want to be treated and how I treat people around me. I'm like, I wouldn't say it's unnecessary to kill humans while people are killing humans. It's like, I don't get it, So yeah.
So what would you tell someone who's eating meat? Like, how do you approach it? Because I've heard a lot of approaches, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. Just tell me how you approach people to get them to
understand.
Stop eating animals.
So I've been doing activism for like a year, and I've definitely made an effort to really evolve because I didn't like the feeling of like feeling angry or like what, just like very disconnected, very confusion, where it's like, how are people not seeing it, So recently, not that long ago, maybe like 2-3 months ago, I decided to dig a little deeper, And so now when I talk to people in cubes and do outreach, I talk to them like a human being. I don't want them to just say, I'm going to go vegan. I'd rather have a more honest conversation about, real issues and letting people know like, okay, this is just two people talking together. Let's really talk about it and let's have a nice conversation. And I don't want to judge you, but let's be honest. I look at people now, I'm like, let's be honest. I know you're not going to walk away maybe right now and you might forget it, but I'd rather have an honest conversation. So first I say that, so hopefully like we build some kind of like thing. And then I tell them what it is, you know what I mean? Or we do a lot of asking questions, and even when you ask questions, it's already there, So I just have an honest conversation, you have to tell me specific things of what I say. But first, I recognize that I'm talking to a person and that I speak my truth, but we have to recognize both truths. We can't deny, and we just go from there. So I go from there kind of, and wherever it leads me to a conversation about family, about this, about that. But one thing that I do, I keep it about the animals. I don't talk about diets. I talk about a little bit of the environment, but I do talk strictly about the animals. If they bring up diets, I tell them, it's not a diet. We have options. We already know all. I make it very quick. We have options for everything, but we're here, and I tell them we're here to talk about the animals and what they go through and relate to that aspect, because the food is easy to fix. We got that. That's already there. It's not, can we make connection to this? So keep it with the animals.
Okay. All right, that's good. At least you don't. A lot of vegans who are into discussions, they sometimes like cornering people, and it's good that you don't do that. But that's one of the main ways in which they try and make the point that killing is unnecessary. Why would you kill unnecessarily? And so it's good that you don't approach it that way, and I think that's great. But I still want to have the conversation about how humans engage in some killings that we should probably question the same way we question, not necessarily the same way, not necessarily to the same extent, but to some extent we should question the ease with which some humans kill other animals.
What do we do? What do you think we do that's currently? Is it you're talking about we do something currently? What is it?
For example, let's take two examples. One of them is, for the sake of our pleasure of smelling the roses or whatever,
Smelling the roses?
we will step onto grass and trample lots of garden insects, and we don't necessarily think twice. Most vegans don't even think about it. Very few vegans, they try their best to walk on the concrete and try their best to look before stepping, but most vegans, they don't care. How do you feel about that?
You know what? I think it's actually one of my pet peeves, when I went vegan, they're like, oh, would you kill a fly? And I'm like, I think once again, it's such a unfair for the animals that are going through this. Those things to me are a distraction, and I'll get to the little insects. The argument of it to me is a distraction because you don't get it, in my opinion. We're talking about stuff that's consciously us doing. We're evolving human beings, but let's be honest and not distract ourselves with stuff like that. Now, I do believe the longer you're vegan, you start seeing a lot of things differently. I can't kill an ant. Like, my conscience just won't do it. I'm like, but, you know what I mean? However, I know I'm not a bad person. I know that if I step on an ant, it didn't come from a bad place. We live in a society where all us animals live together, and death is going to happen. People are going to kill people still. People are still going to kill some animals. This is going to happen, whether because we're bigger or because we have all these stuff right now that animals can't live in, or we don't feel comfortable in them. Like, this is all going to happen, So I don't believe it's the same thing because the intention is not there and the awareness, is different, So I don't have those kind of discussions. I tell people, let's not do that, Like, I might accidentally kill a fly one day. That's not fair and it's not, don't make it about me. Because you don't care about that fly. You're just trying to prove a point.
Actually, they are trying to prove a point, but it's a fair point to make because we are approaching them because we care about something. And there are a few vegans who have approached other vegans talking about, the insects, but very few vegans. Most vegans don't. But there are times when they do approach people and they do draw a parallel to try to help vegans realize that it's an ongoing process of how much consideration you can have.
Yeah, of course. If I'm talking about the people who talk about the insects just to prove a point with no other thing, that I think it's not fair, and I won't have that conversation because we're not talking about the victim. You're talking about the action, and that I'm being a hypocrite because I do this. So that's personal, and again, that's not what I'm here for. Now I've become more aware of like insects. I know it takes a lot for someone to get there, and I feel like the more you're aware and you're on that journey, you're gonna get there. So sometimes I'll mention it, sometimes I won't. You know what I mean? Because people are not coming from that place. They're really not. Walking on grass, that's a really hard thing to change. I walk on grass all the time. I'm sitting on the grass, I'm laying there, that's just part of life. I'm not going there and punching the grass and hoping everything dies. You know what I mean? In that intent, we can't forget We can't want to just prove people wrong or right. That's not fair. That's so unfair. Whether you're vegan or not vegan, it doesn't matter. Let's stop trying to prove people right or wrong. You know what I mean? It's not what it's about at the end of the day, you know? Can we be honest with ourselves? Some people are going to be ready for the truth, some people are not. And that's something I've learned, you know? I'll have a conversation and they took in as much as they could at that moment. They might see it in 10 years, they might never see it, they might see it tomorrow. You know, I think what us vegans should do and just focus on is continue speaking the truth from the best place that we know how to, and the people who are ready will listen and join us to help the earth, help everybody, you know what I mean? So I think it's, you know, we need to just be nicer to each other, period, you know, and stop trying to be right or wrong. And as much as non-vegans, which is silly because we're all human beings, we should all be continuously saying, how can I be better? And I think that's what we don't do. We're like, da-da-da-da-da-da. Stop. Ask yourself, how can you be a better activist? What can you do? You know what I mean? As a person, you know? So I think if people did that, we wouldn't have so much of those kind of conversations that are not so relevant if we're just honest, you know?
It's actually relevant in the minds. Some of them I agree are just trying to point out you're hypocritical and just trying to make a fuss. But there are some people who ask it who are genuinely trying to understand what makes one thing okay and the other thing not okay. And, you know, they're genuinely struggling. So I would say, you know, when you notice people are coming at it from a combative point of view, it's perfectly okay to try to disengage from the combativeness.
Yeah.
And also a lot of people, they try to think in terms of, you know, this is, I'm comfortable doing this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. And sometimes you help people see why, based on their own belief system, something may not make much sense.
Yeah.
They may not change it right away, but, you know, it's helping them consider that this doesn't sit in well with some of the principles you hold.
Yeah, and that's a conversation, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with that statement you just said. You know, and again, so that's why it's not about proving someone right or wrong. It's being open to a conversation. And honestly, if someone is open to having a conversation about veganism with me, we're not going to see eye to eye in the beginning. That's just not going to happen, you know? So time may pass by, but the fact that they're talking about it, then that's good. You know what I mean? You start a dialogue and it's going to be a conversation. Like you said, they might not do it now, but yeah, they're going to notice it. And I think as being a human too, you know how long you let something linger or when you're holding back. We know, you know. So it's just understanding, I guess, that aspect. But I agree with you.
Okay. And in terms of the intention, I do agree it's a difference between, you know, what happens with the animals in farms and slaughterhouses and what happens with the animals we trample while going to roasts. But there are some cases, for example, termites, where the intention is to kill these animals that are doing nothing but recycling dead wood. You know, it's like building a house of ginger cookies, a gingerbread, and killing the kids who come to eat it.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, I think, you know, right now we have these animals in stake, you know, and it's like the severity of what's happening. Hopefully, you know, we wake up from this nightmare and we're like, okay, we actually have to start doing better for as much as we can. As human beings, it's a little too late, you know, because no matter what, for crops, we're going to kill animals, like, unless we find a different way, you know what I mean? So we have to say, okay, we've done the damage we've done. We've domesticated dogs, they need us. No argument there. They have to, unless we kill them all off and start fresh, which we're not going to do that, you know? So I think at one point, you just, this is where it all starts. You start going there, you know what I mean? So termites, hopefully we build houses that, I don't know. You know what I mean? We'll get there, and I see it getting there. If we go vegan, we will get there, because no vegan's gonna be like, no, we'll be like, let's do it. Eventually, we're gonna be like, yes, stand up for the termites. I feel it, if there's an alternative. You know what I mean? Of course. One, because those chemicals are not good for anybody anyway. They shouldn't be on this earth. They never existed long before. Why do we have them now, you know? So I think it's gonna be a journey there, but again, not I can't talk about it in the same level as what's happening to these animals and the babies and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's fair enough. Like, we will get to it. I also believe we will get to it. And like most things, when initially the solution costs $100,000, only a few rich people will do it. When it gets to 500, almost all vegans will do it. When it gets to $10, everyone's going to be doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. You know, it's just it's been the hardest to accept, but that this is part of our human life. That like every other injustice that happened, we're going to be the ones that are living it, and hopefully it'll be different for generations to come.
So in terms of vegan activists, like my focus again is, to ask these questions to make us think about where we are, to understand, it's a continuous process, and I strongly urge all vegans to, not fall for those terms of it's not my intention, it's practical, reasonable. These are the same arguments used by meat eaters. Let's instead try to think about what our principles are, understand it's difficult to function in society without playing along, but to continue struggling, because some vegans will try to avoid killing the termites or the ants, others don't, but at least let us think about it. Different people have different reasons why it's acceptable. Hopefully the vast majority of us in society will agree that what we're doing to these farmed animals is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with everything that you said. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks. I'm sure I'll chat with you about other topics another day.
Yeah, thank you.
And, just feel free to cry. It helps.
Oh, trust me. I cry. Lately, I've been crying a lot, Yeah, it's definitely an experience going through activism, and it makes you question a lot, and then the more you just realize what's happening, you want to be better, and you want to understand too that you love these human beings. We're all human beings, and if you understand that you were once there and that you were so blinded, and that people you love and are good people can't get out of it, that it's real, that it's deep. It's deep in the heart, it's deep in the mind, it's deep in the soul, and it's hard. So it's gonna take time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I really enjoyed all your questions.